Hey, everybody. I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the word. And today, that word is can. Can. We serve a God who can. No matter what it is, God can. Now, sometimes I think we struggle because we don't know if God will, but that's not what He asks us, right? He wants us to trust Him in faith and believe that He is able. There are times that the things that we know that He can do, sometimes we know that may not be what He does do, right? We know that He could heal anyone, but that doesn't mean that He's going to heal everyone. Now, just think about that in the context of situations that you've had, maybe even loved ones that you've lost. That it's not that God failed in His promises, it's just that He healed in a different way, He answered in a different way. The part that you can have faith in, or the part that you can be strengthened in or encouraged, is that you had faith that God was able. And that's what we see in Daniel chapter 3. One of my favorite stories in the book of Daniel. You take between the fiery furnace, we just talked about a couple days ago, talked about the way that they decided that Daniel purposed in his heart ahead of time how they were going to eat and that he wasn't going to defile himself. And then to take the in the lion's den as well, and that story still to come. But today, the fiery furnace, and you have old King Nebuchadnezzar has put up this 90-foot high gold statue, and everybody's got to bow down and worship. When you hear all the music and all the instruments playing, you have to bow down and worship, or you're going to be thrown into the fiery furnace. Now, a lot of times I think we hear this story as kids and as children, and even maybe we've told the story to children, and we almost have this, almost even the cartoonish type fire in mind. We don't. I think sometimes we don't relate it to what it actually would have looked like, how hot it actually was. Remember, it even kills the ones that are throwing them into the fire. But with all of that, before they're even thrown into the fire, a great story, great recollection. I love the way that Daniel put this all together for us to read it, where the Lord put it together for us to read. But something happens before they're even thrown into the fire. When they're brought before the king and they're given another chance, and the king is really upset that they're even there. He's like, wait a minute, y'all are supposed to be part of my crew, right? You're supposed to be part of my group, my wise men, right? Y'all are the ones that I'm supposed to be leaning on, and now you won't support me by bowing down to worship. So we pick up Daniel chapter 3 in verse 15. It says, now if you're ready at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, in symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. Today, you can almost look at it this way. All God wants to know is, will you stand up and say, my God can? I think too often we get to be believing the lies of the enemy. We're too busy focused on all the noise that's around us. We're too busy following the footsteps of the culture. We're too busy listening to what everybody else is saying. And look, well, hey, I'm far from home, right? These boys could have said, we're far from home. Man, we could bow down just to keep the peace and nobody will ever say anything. Look, we could bow down physically and not spiritually, right? We'll just say, well, we'll go through the motions, but that way we won't stick out and we won't be killed, because obviously God put us here for a reason. They could have rationalized it and in any kind of way, but they thought better of it. They said, no, God has got us here for a reason. He's already been with us one time and multiple times, many others I'm sure that we know nothing about. But if he's been with us in the past, he'll be with us again today, and we are not going to bow down to anybody but the one true God. Even in the face of the king who had their lives in his hand, or so we thought. I even love the fact that King Nebuchadnezzar says, well, is there any God who could save you? Yes, there is. There is the one true God who can. Today, I would ask, who are you worshiping? Are you worshiping the golden images that's set up in this world today? The almighty dollar, prosperity, fame, maybe a little social influence, maybe a little notoriety, and maybe a little popularity, just to be known even locally. Maybe that people know who you are, and you maybe get a little prideful. Maybe because they can see what you're doing. And I mean, the list goes on of how we would focus on ourselves. There's all kinds of temptations to fall down and worship something other than God. Today, will you take a stand and say, I'm not going to bow down to anything else? And even when the enemy, right, even when Satan comes to plot against you, you will not cower and not bow down, because you will say, my God is able to deliver me. Now, I don't know that he will. That's the key, right? They didn't even know for sure that he would. But they said that still wasn't going to change the fact that they were going to be faithful to their God. You don't have to know what's going to happen on the other side of your circumstances. All you need to know is that God's going to walk you through every bit of it. I think just for that reason alone is why Jesus, the incarnate Christ, the pre-incarnate Christ, was there dancing in the fire with them. And he could do the same for you today. Why? Because he's the God who can. God bless you. And I pray you have a great, great day.